Okay. Just a few things. Just make yourself at home here. Bring yourself here in your full presence. Put your feet on the ground, on the earth, on the floor. And offer us the gift of your presence, the gift of your being here, the most precious thing that you can give is your presence, your deepest self. So tonight what we're going to speak about is collective presence. And to explore the question, is there something that is beyond the presence of me, which is what we've been speaking to, the gift of your presence, your being here, your beingness. And is that something that something is beyond also me and you? I see you, Holger. I see you, Rick. I'm in a relationship with you. I see you. I recognize your presence, and that connection creates something. Creates a shared me and you interpersonal presence. But is there something that actually holds that too, that is larger than an interpersonal connection and the presence of being with an other? Is there something that holds us? We want to engage with that question from our experience. So let's just take this very slowly, because what we're focusing on is something very subtle. And let's begin with oneself. To feel one's presence, you can close your eyes or keep them unfocused in a kind of meditative attitude. But just feel your feet on the floor. You're sitting in a chair. Feel the slight vibration, density, aliveness that is you. And now let's make contact with each other through this screen, not getting stuck on the screen, but through the screen. You can focus on one person, and then maybe look at another. And you can feel sort of a space that opens up that is in between, that is, oh yeah, I see. I see Manon. I see Jackie. There's a recognition in that and a connection. And of course, if we were face to face and here together physically, that connection would even be stronger. But now, can we open our awareness to the presence of all of us all at once? That which holds you, that holds me, holds all of us in a subtle, a more subtle presence. And to do that, we need to drop our thinking mind, our categorizing mind, and listen with the cells of our body, with all of our cells, to the space that we're in together. You may feel a tension. You may not be sure if you feel anything at all. Is there any? Do these three different forms of presence, my presence, and interpersonal presence, and focus, and the collective presence that we're in all the time, often unaware of, because it's so easy to step over it. Can you sense into that difference? Is there a difference? Is there something to note? Anyone want to share?
Yeah, what I'm noticing is that, first of all, I'm not clear that I am calling I isn't one of the many collections of perspectives that I happen to be. It could just be a very deep perspective that I can't see behind, that I'm naming I. Therefore, I don't know that I could distinguish from a sensing standpoint the difference between that and this collection of perspectives.
Well, it's interesting. Go ahead.
They just feel deep. I mean, it feels deep, but it just feels deep.
Mm-hmm. When you speak about the collection of perspectives and you move your hands like this, there's a way in which what you're saying with your gesture is that it's somehow outside of yourself. Is that part of your experience, that it's something you're looking at over there?
Nothing in this experience stops moving. When there is some depth, it's more of a gentle, almost stable undulation. But perspectives that I might name arise from that motion, it seems.
Because perspective, I mean, in some ways, what we're doing is we keep pulling back, right?
Right.
We're pulling back. We're pulling back from here. I'm here in my world. This is the world that I'm part of. this is how I perceive, and we're saying what's a step beyond,
I know
back from
you
that.
put your hands out like
Yeah,
that too, right?
back.
Yeah.
Back, not push away, but back.
Yeah.
And is there a perspective that is not related to my vision, but is related to a sensing that is larger than me?
Once again, the problem, I don't want to say it's a problem, there will always be a stepping back or the possibility of a stepping back.
Possibly. We can go deeper and deeper.
And language disappears at some point. So I can't call it a perspective at some point because it's just raw experience.
Mm-hmm. Or sensing.
Right.
Yeah.
Sensing. But I wouldn't even name it sensing at that point because there's no words back there. Back. I say back. I don't know why I say that, but that's what I'm saying.
I don't know that there are no words back there.
Well, as I travel, and I'm using that word, I don't know whether motion is what's moving, but as I experience depth, there is a space at which whatever naming mechanism occurs here can grasp that and name it. And beyond that, I can't, but then I can move into that and words do arise.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like experientially, it's a moving backwards into silence. Words can arise once something in here becomes
Mm-hmm.
becomes familiar with the terrain enough that it can speak to me, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to me, it also feels not only as a step back into that wider space, or kind of maybe less individualized space, but also a kind of moving in. Like also in this exercise, I felt like also it is as a perception or a sensing. It's to me it seems more to be a moving in with each other and in a certain way through each other into something that grounds that our shared presence now. But I feel it's an interesting direction. It's not a direction, but a kind of moving into the space and into also kind of in the in-between space of us and with a certain kind of intimacy and curiosity and
Right.
excitement. Yeah.
It's interesting. It seems like a motion into less motion,
Mm-hmm.
a space of less motion.
And my experience is that it's more down. I feel it takes me down, down and in, not just in, but down and in, which is it's different somehow. There's a different level of depth when I allow myself as part of the whole to feel what I feel in and to listen from every cell of my body.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, I think that we experience it in different ways often, and with different senses of spatial recognition. But I think it's all of it is an opening and a space of not being separate from. There's an ongoing opening and invitation to not objectifying, not being separate from. And that, I think, is an important difference. Very important difference. Because it rests on a sense knowing that fundamentally that the world that we're in is undivided. That coming from a depth experience rather than from a conceptual one.
I agree with that. It's in a certain way a passive process. It's something you can't do. It's very hard to describe, because in the moment I try to get there, it's a wrong way, because it's already here. Mm-hmm. So in a certain way, it's a kind of opening and concentration, not concentration is the wrong word, but to be aware of the unknown. Mm.
That's nice, Manfred. Because I think that's part of the puzzle, isn't it? The bringing into language that which is beyond conceptual knowing.
We cannot bring it into language. It's not possible.
And yet I would say that your speaking of that continues the opening.
Yeah.
If I may, what I find very interesting is that the personal experience I'm having, of me here, and when I'm in relation to one other person that I'm looking at or be in contact with, is very different from one to another. But the one that is beyond this is the same for everyone, and it seems that even we find different words to try to express it, we know exactly, yeah, this is it. It's like this is a universal space that we recognize, or I recognize, and it doesn't matter how you describe it. This subtle realm feels to be very home, yeah, even more known than me.
That's interesting, Manon. You just flipped Manfred's not knowing on its head, saying that there's something about this space that we all deeply somehow know. But it doesn't, I mean, that's one of the paradoxes, isn't it? It doesn't become known in that way, in any kind of mental way, but it is known to us in a deep sense.
It feels nothing is more intimate than this, and yet, like I hear everybody saying, when you try to make it into a concept, there's something that recognizes that it's not quite, whatever I'm saying is not quite it, and yet it feels like whatever this is more intimate than even any concept almost. Mm-hmm. It's something behind the concept. It's something it's something bigger than the concept. It includes all ideas and concepts, and it's more than that. And the sense of this is always here. It's never not. It has no beginning, no end. And again, it just comes to me, it's the most intimate thing. That's why it feels like home. There's nothing more intimate, it seems.
The more people that are speaking, the more I'm personally feeling I'm losing my edge. I'm not losing me, but my edge, my boundaries, my just opening to the collective space, which has been enabled by the different contributions that have come in. It's a sort of comfortable, oneness, really. Most interesting.
Yeah, the language becomes a pathway. Lisbeth, did you want to speak?
Yeah, a few times, but it probably is already said, but the difference I felt when doing the exercise of going from me to connection and to the connection with the whole group, I thought there's only one difference between this space, which is the now. Everybody always says it is the now, but it's as opposite to the memories. Because I don't know all the people here, and only a few people I know. And I thought, what is it? It is just a memory, the difference. And then I thought for myself, it's just everything I can think is all the memory. So if you just let go of this memory, then suddenly you think, yeah, this is who I am. It's suddenly so simple, actually.
Yeah, I find that interesting because this is so different to what we normally think who I am. It is more in the direction of memories, of ideas, of who I became and things like that. And this experience of also, like Rosalind was saying, it's always widening, and at the same time, I'm still there. I'm part of this, and I'm not out of this, but I'm part of this. I'm in there. And this eye feels very close, but it is at the same time, it's also a kind of different eye, which is not related to my history or to my memories, like you were saying.
It's interesting because it's already, there's an interesting tension between it being very personal and very much oneself, and yet somehow, but not being one's simply one's story. And actually, you can even just hold in mind for just a second the idea of bringing a kind of story about something that just happened earlier today or some other time, and you can just feel in that there's a moving away, because there's this I is deeply each of us, and it's not, as Manon was saying earlier, it's also it's not different. The experience of it is not different between us, even if we use different words.
So perhaps one word describes what everybody's beginning to describe, and that's just presence.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's true. I also sense that how presence gets kind of amplified by our shared presence. I'm just noticing how also during the dialogue, how the presence really unfolds or intensifies, because it's not only my own presence, it's a shared presence, which is also not the right word. It's one presence, but one presence in motion that kind of, for each, for us engaging with the space, it's unfolding and it's enriching and it has a aliveness in it that goes, that I sense, but it goes also beyond me. It's a kind of sensing the shared aliveness, which is bigger than my own, but at the same time completely my own. So it's a strange thing also.
It's interesting because as you're saying that, Mike, what I'm getting is collective presence is a misleading term, isn't it? That you, because you think about a collection of people or things, but a group, and it's not really. We're not talking about in some ways a group, a group or a sum of individuals or a bunch of individuals together, creating a presence. It's like the presence is, and we as a group are opening to it.
It feels to me almost like a portal where our collective, like the presence is already here, and our choice, our decision to open to it and be with it and be present in it, it transports us to a different place, different level or something.
For me, it's kind of a paradox, because we can see, we can name it, and at the same moment we have to be clear that whatever we put into words is limited. So we see the limitation, and in seeing clearly the limitation, it's an opening. It opens itself. I cannot go to it. I cannot try to touch it. It's very difficult to explain, but it's not a process of going somewhere.
It's interesting because I think, and what I hear also is that this experience, this working with language, is not a pinning down process. And if it tries to be a pinning down process, it takes us in a different direction. But it's an invocation or an evocation that one is trying to bring one's language as closely to this experience, this opening, to give it, to offer it, to be of it, and to evoke that in our space together. And that has a power of that allows it to deepen, thicken, become more tangible, richer, more alive. We become more aware of its presence.
I had to think about pointing out, like the teachers, they point that you can only point to it, but never really grasp it or pointing out.
And yet the pointing is opening something at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have in my visual like the analogy of the wind. But I cannot see wind. I can't, we can't grasp it. And it's like opening up to feel it more and more. So I'm more and more aware, even if I can't see it and I can't, catch it. I know it's there. I can feel it. I can experience it. And it feels like more we are opening together. There's more part of my body that can experience and feel this wind somehow.
I love what you said, Manon, in the sense of allowing what is not seen or visible, or even in our awareness, to be present. Yeah, I feel that has such a large space in this space.
Let's move into meditation from here, and so sit someplace that's comfortable where you can have your back straight. And let's go down and in and up and out. Everything, everywhere, all at once. In the meditation that I would suggest to you, and if you have your own practice and you do what you do, you're welcome to do that. But to really sit in radical openness, to allow yourself to be just open at a bodily level, mental level, here open in the presence of the presence we were speaking about.